Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today on our podcast, we have the topic of healthy living and exercise, mashallah. So it's a topic which is relevant to everybody, something that we're actively encouraged to do. So inshallah, today we're going to try getting some Islamic perspective on it. And just before we get into the topic, we should do an introduction of our panel because it's been a while since we've done it. So saying directly below me is Mufti Saab on the screen only. So it's Mufti Saab, Mufti Amjad from the Olive Institute, who do a lot of work for the community, mashallah. They also have their own fundraising campaign, which is currently going. So check that out on Facebook, YouTube, and all the social media platforms. Across the screen next to me is Molana Sajid, who's the Imam of Masjid Umar and head of the Paradise Academy. We're also, the details across the bottom, we're doing a lot of fundraising for Masjid Umar, which platform we're currently using. And then sitting diagonal for me is Dr. Waqas, who is an actual medical doctor, mashallah, who inshallah is the expert of our topic today. So inshallah we'll get a lot of insight from Dr. Saab today. So to start us off, I'm going to pass off to Mufti Saab to introduce what the concept of healthy living and exercise is in Islam. Mufti Saab.
What's those lost sound?
It seems like Mufti Saab has lost sound.
And he's vanished.
And on that note, Molana Saab, can you take up that mantle of just saying a few words about healthy living and exercise in Islam?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Nahmadu wa nasalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Alhamdulillah. No, mashallah, it's a very broad topic. It's a very important topic, and especially during this time and age where everybody is concerned about their health, about their well-being. And as a Muslim, we know that our body is an amanat, a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that we own, we have, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gives us eyes to see, hands to do actions, feet to walk. So we've got to take care of our body. And the thing is, sometimes we let go of ourselves, and what happens is we put ourselves in a bad state. And then we've learned, from the past few podcasts, that when we let go of ourselves, we can fall ill, we can, mentally and physically fall ill. So, as a Muslim, we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to look after our bodies. This is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person that's fit and healthy, he's going to be more active in his deen, in his dunya. He'll go out to work, he'll go out to earn the halal rizq. He'll be fit enough to look after his children. He'll be fit enough to, do other acts of kindness. So the thing is, to look after ourselves, to do exercise is very important. And sometimes, if you look at myself here, I'm probably not the best role model at the moment. But alhamdulillah, when we were young and whatever active, I think we used to play football 8-10 hours a day. And that's all we used to do, play, run about. And we used to take care of ourselves. I think nowadays also the eating is an issue, especially fast food takeaways. People enjoy a lot of just unhealthy eating, and so all these things I think will be mentioned today. And I think recently myself, I've been even joined the gym, and the thing is, you realize how important. Mashallah, I have my own personal trainer as well. So what happens is, yes, I got a trainer as well, alhamdulillah. And the thing is, they teach you lots of techniques, so you become confident in other things as well. You realize, wait a minute, I'm just like Mutsa mentioned yesterday, a lot of our work is just about sitting down, teaching. We spend hours just sitting, and what happens is, unfortunately, we eat and then we just sit down, and obviously we're going to go big. So we don't take care of ourselves, and when we don't take care of ourselves, then unfortunately, then we realize, wait a minute, I've got children that are growing up, and if I don't look after my health, I won't be there to look after them. So then you become worried about yourself. So it's very, very important that we look after our bodies, we look after our health. This is an amanat, a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us. And a healthy body is what's the saying? A healthy body is you don't know.
No, I was saying you talked about more stuff.
So anyway,
healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah, a healthy body is a healthy mind. So a person that has got a healthy body, he's going to stay active. He's going to stay active in his amal. He's going to stay active in his dunya, and he'll stay away from the temptations of shaitan and the sins, whatever else. But a person that's lazy, and we see it nowadays, people that are lazy just stay at home. They're on their mobile phones. They just sat on the settee. These are unfortunate to go on. Sorry.
I was going to ask a question, inshallah, and I'm just going to re-add you to the stream as well, so to benefit Mufti Sahib. So I was going to ask a question, and this is aimed more towards Dr. Saab. So we're talking about healthy living, and there's a couple of different aspects that are part of that. So obviously there's the eating part, and there's the exercise part, and there's the general living, the amount of movement you do and stuff like that. So what are the general consequences? We could start there with the lack of a healthy life.
Well, I think we need to look at, first of all, if it's okay, Mufti Sahib, if I speak, because the question has been directed towards me. And we look at ourselves in terms of where our ethnic background is from. We're from the subcontinent. Most of us are from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. We're from this type of background. And so from this type of background, you see the first generation of people who came across to the UK from those lands, from the Indian subcontinent, were predisposed to certain diseases, illnesses, conditions already from that generation. So those generations, there's a study, I think the study was out to say that they're 50% more likely to have some sort of heart disease as opposed to their white Caucasian counterparts. So that's the first generation. And there's a lot of things to consider from that. There's some things that we can see genetically, what's going on, healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise. Some of the things that have been brought in genetically, we're more predisposed to type 2 diabetes. You'll find from within our communities, as long with the one of the main factors is that type 2 diabetes is prevalent, whether it's early onset, you find in type 1, or later on when you find type 2. You'll find within, let's say, the later 45 years old or towards the 50 years old, you'll see diabetes being detected then, hypertension being there. And most of it is as a result of how we live, eat, and exercise, or lack of. So our food and diet that consists of, for example, there's healthy aspects to our diet. The dals that we eat, these vegetables that we've had in the villages back in our ethnic ancestral lands in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, etc. The fish is having the good oils that the fish contains. But then what we have always also included from those is, say, the non-healthy aspects of our diet. Like, for example, and a lot of people are going to have this during this Ramadan period, is the fried stuff, the samosa, the pakora, the kebabs, the rolls, all these other pastries that we have, which are deep fried and all. They're completely unhealthy, and maybe many people may dislike me for saying this. They are completely unhealthy. And on top of that, like my boss has mentioned, we eat and then we sit. We don't exercise, so there's no burning off factor. So yesterday, I think yourself, Munasab, and Adil Rashid, the England cricketer, you both spoke about how he eats, or rather you asked him how he eats and trains whilst in Ramadan. And he said in this Ramadan, he's been at home for most of Ramadan, pretty much all of Ramadan. He has had the opportunity to spend with his family and his kids and in his own home in Bradford. And so in terms of food and diet, he's been eating whatever has been at his table or his dasakhan at home. And at the same time, he's been exercising. So he will obviously get the advice from the England cricket team, but at the same time, from eating maybe quote unquote the unhealthy foods, the samosa, the kebabs, the pakora, he's exercising whilst in Ramadan as well. Whether he does that during the day or the evening, he's still burning some sort of calories off. And so there's those things that we don't do as well. So we eat a very unbalanced, unhealthy palate we have for our dinner, for our lunches. We may even eat some of the timing of our food as well. I mean, I know a lot of our elders, we have our biggest meal is our evening meal, our last meal, and then we have a short time before we retire and go to sleep. So even that is not good. So I think there's quite a few things that we can see within our lifestyles that we can really adjust. And Mufti Sahib, I think yesterday mentioned that it's just a basic, simple physics of science that if you're not putting whatever you put in, if you're not burning it off, then it's got to go somewhere. You'll see central obesity more so. You'll see a lot of our folk having quite a rotundness around their central area of their body. around the abdomen and stuff like this, and that obviously will is a precursor to see what happens later on and whether they do develop diabetes and hypertension, and which eventually will go into the heart disease and maybe cause heart attacks by having atherosclerosis and things like this. So we have a lot of these issues that we can deal with, and some of the things that Mufti Molana mentioned just a short moment ago about that this body is an amana. Allah SWT has entrusted us to look after our bodies just the way we look after everything else. Now, if a person wakes up in the morning and Allah SWT grants him the ability to wake up in the morning, and he doesn't need to go further than that. One can just look at himself in his body, his own physical appearance, and say, Alhamdulillah, Allah SWT blessed me with eyesight. I've got 2 eyes and I can see. Alhamdulillah. There are so many people who have eyes but cannot see. Similarly with the hands, the ears, the mouth, the nose, etc. And it brings me back to one of the Quran ayats where Allah SWT says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. So if you were to try and count the blessings of Allah SWT, you won't be able to. And if one just looked at himself frequently, he would just be at this stage as well. We cannot even begin to enumerate the amount of blessings Allah SWT showered us. But what we do, unfortunately speaking, we take those for granted. Like any blessings, we take it for granted, and we don't look after it. So those are a few things that I thought that are quite prevalent in us. Another thing that's obviously prevalent that we take for granted is smoking. Smoking is something which is not just prevalent within our older community, but certainly within our younger community as well. It's seen probably from a younger spectrum that it's a harmless, maybe fun or whatever, however it's started. But once you are smoking for a long period of time, even the one cigarette that you may have had, or the 20 pack a day person that he's having, or the 40 cigarette pack, 40 cigarettes a day the person is having, or whatever, that leads on even further problems, including and everyone's well versed in the problems with cigarette smoking and the ailments affiliated with that as well. So there's a lot of things that we need to just think about and put in action, and those are some of the things that I had in mind as well.
MashaAllah, Dr. Saab, there was a lot compacted into that, MashaAllah, and we talked about a lot. So you talked about hypertension there, and you talked about the people's habits of doing just sitting and doing nothing. And habits is a big thing, because I know there's a conception, misconception, or sometimes a conception, an idea that rudimentally all we need to do is we need to put out more effort than we consume, and that fundamentally, a fundamental level, is 100% true. But there is aspects that go slightly beyond that. One of the questions I asked to receive yesterday was, how do you get the motivation to do what you do? So he's in this lockdown and he's not going to be playing cricket for a while yet. How do you keep going? And I think there's an aspect here of the mental side of it. How do you keep mentally prepared for that? I want to touch on that topic, but just before we go there, I'd like to introduce Mufti Saab again. Hopefully you can hear us now. And Mufti Saab, is there anything from the prophetic traditions about encouraging exercise?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We've talked throughout over these 5, 6, 7, whatever podcasts that we've had so far, and it's always been, when we look at the asal of it, it's always been about desires. It's always been about the nafsi, the ego. And one of the things the ego likes is food. The ego likes to eat different types of food, and we eat with our eyes rather than we eat with our stomach, because it's the desire of food that causes us to then obviously put on excessive weight. If, for example, we ate what the body would need, then we would be the same size all the time. Okay. But what we do, unfortunately, is we eat what we want to eat. So then when that food goes in, then that food needs to be kind of placed somewhere, and it just becomes excess fat, and we get bigger. The other aspect of this is something called barakah. And unfortunately, we have lost the barakah of food. What I mean by that is, when you look at the prophetic time, it's amazing how they would, people ask and they say, people ask me and they say, oh, Mufti, what did the Prophet of Allah eat first? The Gujarati Pakistani thing. The Gujaratis have a habit of delivering a sweet dish first, and the Pakistanis have a habit of giving a sweet dish at the end. And there's that big debate. What is the sunnah? Is the sunnah a sweet dish first, or is the sunnah a sweet dish at the end? In fact, neither, because the Prophet only had one dish. And that dish could have been some dates and water, or that could have been some milk. We don't even consider milk to be a date. We hear the Prophet of Allah ﷺ saying that the best of condiments is vinegar. He would dip raw barley, rough bread into vinegar and eat it. We just about splash that on maybe some chips. So we have moved a huge way from the prophetic time. And in fact, we've moved a huge way from what used to be our time. Our elders coming back from, great majority was from the Indo-Pak world, where again, food consumption was relatively low. When I did some work with the Halal HMC, they were giving me figures that the Muslim community consumes something like 30 to 40% of the lamb produce compared to the British population, which is what we had only about 2% or something. So you can imagine how much lamb we eat. In fact, when they make lambs in New Zealand, they are all halal. Any New Zealand meat you get is halal. Why? Because they serve the Far East Muslim countries and they serve the Arabian countries. In fact, the abattoirs and the halal, the slaughterhouses in France as well are majority halal. Why? Because the main consumers of lamb are Muslims. So that goes without saying. Then we go on to chickens. And, we're sort of buying chickens at £1 or £1.50 for 2 pieces of chicken and chips. And, to get a chicken whole is £3-4. So meat and chicken is always on our menu. It's always, getting a vegetable dish is like not just a side, it's a side of a side. So when you're taking all this meat, when really in the time of the companions, alayhi salatu wasalam, they rarely would see smoke coming out of the chimneys of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because they weren't cooking anything. It was all uncooked food they were eating, which is dates, fruit, water. So we have considerably changed our diets. And we know from the hadith.
Sorry to interrupt. Please say the hadith. You used about to mention a hadith. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Don't worry about it. And obviously from the hadith, we know the Prophet of Allah saying that a third for food, a third for water, and a third for air. Either our maths is a bit messed up or our fractions, which is both based on maths, because we say, 3 for me, 3 for my stomach, and 3 for my hair. And that's not what the Prophet said. He said air. But unfortunately, we just consume, and we just keep consuming and consuming and consuming, and then things start breaking because our skeleton framework is built for our figure. Our organs are built for our figure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed a heart which would look after a body, say, year size, lungs which would look after a body this size. But if I put on twice as much weight, my lungs weren't made to hold an 18-stone fella. They were only made to, look after a 12-stone fella. And eventually, that's going to impact on my lifespan, and it's obviously going to impact on the quality of life that I have. So this is talking from a worldly perspective. It's about controlling one's desires. The second thing is the prophetic nature. As we get older, our food consumption stays the same. And I think a few panelists spoke about that. Our food consumption stays the same, but our expenditure of that consumed food is reducing. So whereas in our 20s and 30s, we were working 8-9-hour shifts, whatever. I'll give my father as a good example. Way back in the day, he used to work at Drummond Mills. He was a weaver. And, one day I decided to, they used to have those little metal...
Tiffin boxes.
Tiffin boxes, yeah. So you have like dal in one and salad in the other, whatever. And Dad used to always take that with him when he used to go to Drummond Mills across the road, when we used to live in an old square. So one day on a Saturday, I think Dad used to do 6-7 day a week. So one day on a Saturday, he didn't take it. So Mum goes, Amjad, I said, Jimmy goes, take this to your dad. So I said, where, that big mill, whatever. So I go there and I go to the reception area where the dude sat there, security guard. So I said, look, I brought this from Mr. Muhammad. So he says, all right, wait a minute. So he says, which department? So I said, weaving department. So he rings and obviously I see this dark figure. And my father's fairly light-skinned chap, but anyways, this dark figure coming towards me, so I thought, who's this dude? So he removes his face mask, like the way everybody's got these face masks nowadays, and that bit's the only bit which is white, and it's obviously done. So I kind of handed over his tiffin with my fingers and said, I'm off, I'm going to go play or something. So he said, neighbor, I said, come with me. So we went inside, and obviously I don't know how much health and safety rules we broke, but we went inside because I was a minor as well. So we went inside, they brought me a stool, I sat on this stool, and this was a huge room, huge, I'm looking at my front room now, and you're talking 40, 50 meters long maybe. And they're like 7, 8 huge, or maybe 12 huge machines. And the noise in there was next level.
So the one where you pull it this way and you shuttle it that way.
That's the one, yeah. Chug, 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 the noise and the smell, and you could taste cloth on your tongue. You know, if you put your finger through the air, there was cloth on the end of it. So I thought, yeah, like, you know, I better listen to what Dad says. Then I watched Dad going up and down like a rabbit, you know, up and down constantly, you know, shay, 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 shay. And then every now and then he'd do like a super dive under one of them and disappear for a bit. And then when Dad gone, then he'd reappear on the other side. And, you know, he's putting it. You know, I admired him for 5 minutes. I thought, okay, that's it. That's enough fun for one day I'm off home. And you know, my father's of those of you who know my father, mashallah, he doesn't speak much. He's a man who keeps saying, you might think, who have I got my speech credentials from? I would say my mother's side, inshallah. So my father doesn't speak much. And when he brought me that late evening and he sat me down and he goes, Amjad, did you like that work? So I said, yeah, you know, you got to say that, isn't it? So yeah, it's all right. He goes, no. Tell me, did you like it? I said, no, mate, I don't want to do that. He says, like, get educated. So that was his kind of message he gave me when I was about 9 years old or 8 years old. And that kind of stuck with me, resonated with me throughout my whole life, to get educated so you can actually choose what you want to do. But that wasn't the point I was making right now. The point I was making right now is that's what he did. And he could knock back 2, 3 chapatis, mashallah, evening, daytime, not a problem. You know, he'd make you look silly. Get up and, you know, for suhoor and parathe, eggs and, you know, all the rest of it. But as he's got older now, mashallah, Allah bless him, he's in his 70s. And now, you know, you'll see him, he'll have a tuna salad for lunch. So, you know, my dad's old school. For people of that kind of age and ilk and understanding to sat down to a tuna salad and eat that, well, he knows, you know, he's not burning that kind of energy anymore. So alhamdulillah, he walks, you know, people always say, oh, I saw your dad. And I always say, wait, was he walking? Yeah, he was walking. He walks everywhere, mashallah, he don't drive. So he keeps himself fit. So it's essential and it's important that as our demand in terms of burning in energy is going down, then similarly our intake must also go down parallel with it. But unfortunately, we're not. We're just kind of going like this as we're getting older. And I personally sense that.
Musa, do you think that fast food has also played a part in sort of this, you know, giving us bad health and affecting our lives?
Yeah, it's easy, isn't it, Molana? You know, Allah bless our women folk. But sometimes it can be a little bit of a handful. I've said, you know, we've talked about internal stresses in a household, and the demands now on women is not only their homemakers, they've also got to get a job now. And you've seen it more, you know, when, you know, I'm involved in running schools, and way back in the day when we first started, you know, most of the girls were going into either alimia or becoming mothers at very, you know, marrying and becoming mothers at a very young age. I now look, you know, I'm still in the education field, and I now see most girls are going towards uni. So obviously, once they go to uni and they finish a 3-4 year degree, and if then the father sort of says to her, right, I'm going to go get you married now to Abdullah in Pakistan or something, she's going to kind of think, well, hold on a second here. I'm at degree level. I'm at master's level. My thinking is very different. Now you're going to marry me to some chap from the village who, with all due respect from folk from the village, I have no qualms with people from the village, but obviously their educational attainment is considerably different. Their life prospects are considerably different. So then those demands, so the demands come on our women folk, and they're trying to work, they're trying to be a wife, and then it's quick, easy, here's a couple of quid, go up to the local takeaway and, you know, go get yourself a burger and chips.
Oh, plus for the youngsters and anybody, especially here in Bradford, every, you know, 100 meters, you'll find a takeaway, you'll find a restaurant, you know, the temptations again.
You'll find 7 in that in a small distance. And
nowadays, all the new chai wale, they're all opening.
Yeah, but the question comes more like there's a demand, isn't it? Business is about demand. And if there's a demand, business will meet it. You know, where do you find the most gambling houses? I know we're talking about healthy living and exercise. You'll find the most gambling places, again, around Muslim communities, unfortunately, low-income communities, because when you're middle class to rich, you don't need to gamble. You've got money. It's only when you're kind of at the bottom end of the scale, where you're going to take these kind of risks and, you know, punt a fiver, hoping you're going to get £500. So you're finding gambling houses, takeaways, restaurants. And
so anyway,
I was just going to say, Dr. Saab, do you have a question for Mufti Saab?
Well, I did. It was just before I asked that question, is just on a positive note about the gambling houses. The William Hill on Manning Lane is closed down since a couple of months before the lockdown. So I thought I'd just let you know about it.
No, Jazakallah. It's also about cooking as well, isn't it, Waqas? I'm sure, like, you've spent time away. You know, you studied your PhD, so you studied your medical degree as a doctor, you learn to cook yourself. Now, we don't cook either. That's another thing, and we're always restricted in it. I'm the first one to say, my wife will be watching this and having a go at me later. It's do-day load. What should we have today? Do-day load? Yeah, we haven't had that for like 25 years or something. We don't experiment. We don't like the pastas. We don't like the salads. We don't like the. You get what I mean? Sometimes changing your palate can mean,
I think it's what. I think on that point, it's what one is exposed to. So from a young age, basically, that's what we've been having. So bless them, our mothers, they gave us what they knew. They cooked us what they knew. So they knew how to cook Dorelot and Rije and Saag and all those other vegetables associated.
But I think nowadays with YouTube, people are experimenting as well.
Yeah, correct.
And they're trying out new dishes.
Oh, sorry, I was wondering what they were experimenting. But I appreciate the clarification at the end.
Cooking, isn't it?
Yeah. You said I caught that. That's all right. You just leave it, Molana. Just move on.
Okay.
So, no, going back to Muslim, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned a few things whilst we were speaking. The first one was with the slaughterhouses and the halal option, and specifically you said we get, and you alluded to that chickens are so cheap, so they are at a pound, and you work with HMC, etc. So HMC, from my understanding, is I know this is probably another topic for another day, but very quickly is their main difference is stunning with electric and non-stunning. So they don't allow right?
I'm glad you raised that because
the reason why I'm asking this question is that even though they don't allow the stunning of chickens to happen, but they still have it in mass. So that's the only real difference that they have. So when we were having that idealistic thoughts, should we not be pushing forward to having like free-range chickens which are slaughtered by hand in a side where other chickens don't see them, and similarly our bigger, larger animals where lambs and sheep are slaughtered in a place where other lambs and sheep are? Is that not what we should also propagate forward, rather than just having chalo? You've got this one stunning guy, he's not good. You've got a non-stunning guy, he is good. Those are
I hope when you're saying the stunning guy, you were speaking about me, and the non-stunning guy, you were speaking about Molana Sajid, because he doesn't look stunning to me whatsoever. As much as he would like to paint a pretty picture, those who know, he's not stunning.
No, nobody can stun me.
So anyway, let's swiftly move on. I actually didn't make the point, Waqas. I'm glad you raised that, because the point I was making about that is barakah. And what I'm saying is, if you're not earning halal, if you're not ensuring your food is halal, and I don't mean looking on the back of sweet boxes and saying, well, that's got E141, whatever. I'm not trying to belittle that or ridicule that. That's also important. But what we fail to realize is we don't really care where the chicken or meat is coming from. So we say, well, he's a Muslim brother. With all due respect, Muslim brothers commit haram as well. They steal, they lie, they have, illegal intercourse. We could go on, and the list is huge. So therefore, would we say the same for any other activity? We wouldn't. So when something is not halal, then you can eat 500 pieces of it. It will not fill you up. It will not fill you up. So you feel hungry.
It won't give you the barakah that it should do.
That's right. You will feel hungry, which means you'll eat more. So you'll feel hungry, which means you'll eat more. So you'll feel hungry, which means you'll eat more. But so it won't give you satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. One satiety would be filled, like from a physical concept. There's only
from a physical. Well, not even that. You'd be surprised because you're actually consuming more than your body can take, which is why you end up becoming obese.
Will expand.
That's right, and you end up becoming obese. But when there's barakah in your food, you can eat a very small amount, a very small quantity, and then there's barakah in it. We've seen, for example, the Prophet ﷺ, taking his saliva. The narration is when he's digging up Khandaq, and when he's digging up Khandaq, as he's lifting up, there's stones tied to the bellies of the companions. And when the Prophet ﷺ lifts the axe, because they couldn't break this huge boulder. So when the Prophet ﷺ lifts the pickaxe, they noticed through the side of his jubbah, he's got 2 stones tied to his stomach. So this is the nature of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Sahabi thinks, hold on, let me go back home. He goes home, has a word with the wife, and says, look, I've seen the Prophet Allah. I can see hunger in his face. So have we got anything? She says, well, we've got a little bit of dough, and we've got a little lamb on the back. So he says, okay, slaughter the lamb, let's cook the lamb, let's cook the bread. And she goes, fine, call the Prophet and Chand Admi. He need 3-4 people, bring with him. So he goes over, he sort of ambles his way close to the Prophet, whispers to him that, O Messenger of Allah, Actually, dawat, there's a dawat for you. Come and bring 3-4 satis with you. So the Prophet ﷺ said, don't worry, don't take the food off the stove and leave the bread in the oven, and I would till I get there. And then he stands up, he makes an elan to everybody in the khandaq, in the ditch.
Wow.
You got dawah at so and so's house. So like what we would do is, when the wife tells you that only call Waqas and Babar and Molana Sajid, and Molana Sajid decides to bring 10 other people with him, and then you make that dawah, and obviously when the dawah comes and you go back to your missus and say, actually, you told me to invite only 3 people. Well, I invited 30. Now she's not going to be too impressed, is she? Because she doesn't want to look silly that she hasn't sent sufficient food over. So anyway, she goes, look, if the Prophet ﷺ said that, then there'll be nothing to worry about. When the Prophet arrives, he applies his saliva to the salan, he applies his saliva to the bread. The barakah of his saliva meant that over 80 men survived on that. Over 80 men. Now, the lamb is still the same lamb. Its mass did not grow. It didn't suddenly become a fatter lamb inside the handi. The flour was the same flour. It didn't suddenly become more flour. There was more barakah in it. So eating certain morsels, everybody said, "Oh, I'm full. Alhamdulillah, I'm off. I'm full. Alhamdulillah, I'm off."
I think there's another hadith of Sahib as well, that food for something along. I don't get the exact. I'm paraphrasing here. Food for one is enough for two.
Food for 2 will suffice 3. Yes, and food.
Yeah,
and this is what the Prophet ﷺ would do: is when people would come to the masjid, hungry people, he would say, "Is anybody going to take these people with them?" So the Sahabi then and the companions would start putting their hands up. Okay, I'll take 2. This was every day. This was a daily occurrence.
Mahmoud talked on that. When's that you? About
what? It happened 2 days ago, wasn't it, Dr.
Babar? Isn't I'm sure to feed somebody that's fasting is a great reward.
We did.
Most have talk, give big bayans here, but never feeds people.
So did I not?
We want the barakat of your food.
Did I not act on the sunnah, Waqas, 2 days ago?
The food was delivered from your home, yes, but I think what Molana Sajid is trying to allude to is we didn't have your food.
Oh, right? Sorry, as in my cooking.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to say.
Right. Inshallah, you'll get my cooking as well. I can cook, alhamdulillah. I find it as a good relaxing. I find it.
What do you cook, Mufti?
The whole lot. The only thing I can't make is chapati. I can do the whole lot.
What are your wives really happy with you?
Are you taking Mufti Sahib here?
What was my question was really more towards the aspect of we're focusing on the halal aspect of, say, our slaughtering of our chickens, for example, and that was the example I used. We only look at stunning and non-stunning, but should we not look at I think the Quran it is halal and tayyib. So tayyib would that not include like free-range chicken as opposed to battery chickens?
It would do, but what we need to do in order to manage that is control our insatiable appetite for chicken and meat. Because if we did go down that route, we would not be able to meet demand. I think there's, I can't remember the exact figure. I don't know how long ago it was, but we were consuming something like 2,000 to 3,000 chickens per day in Bradford.
There was, I remember a few years ago, the big.
It's a ridiculous amount of chicken.
The big poultry on just off Leeds Road. It was called. I can't remember the name of the company, but they were slaughtering. This is going back a good 10, 12 years. At that time, they were slaughtering at least 250,000 chickens per week, and obviously they've plowed on.
So they,
I just wanted to bring back. So we talked a lot about the eating, and we talked about the meat, and we talked about how much we consume, and we need to control that. But there's the other side of it, and we've alluded to exercise. So what can one do for exercise? Try exerting it. And I know some of the simple stuff is like we could go running and stuff like that. But what sort of stuff can we do to try exert and get rid of that excess energy? Now, I remember when I was studying sports science, when I was doing some studying that I was doing, and the simple stuff is, okay, let's go to the gym and let's run. But the counter to that is, and everyone who's tried it, and I remember Mufti Sahib, you mentioned this when we were in the masjid a while ago. You mentioned it got boring. And so, and if you try, you jump on the treadmill, you run for 20 minutes, you're like, hey, that was good. 3 months later, the likelihood is, are you still running on that treadmill every day or every other day? The likelihood is not, right? Because you got bored of it. Most of you said actually now that you're doing some building work that was much more exciting, you had purpose and you're going and it was better for you. So how can we get into that mindset of actually let's move away from let's just jump on a treadmill and let's do some of this and
Babar, on your point, sorry to disrupt you. You're right in what you're saying, and I remember many, over the years, like you've joined from one gym to another gym, and you just end up paying direct debit, but you don't end up going and everything. So lately, when I joined this new gym that I'm going to, what happened was I thought to myself, you know what? Like you said, you just go on treadmill and you get bored. So I got myself a personal trainer, and I thought, you know what? Let me see. I pay a bit of money for it, but the thing is, he made a whole schedule for myself and what to do, and also he's motivated me in sense of different exercise to do, and also techniques. A lot of us are scared when we go into the gym that you see bodybuilders to one side, and you think, if I go there, I don't know how to use that machine, and I'm not going to be confident in what I'm doing. Yeah, and so, but what my personal trainer did, he taught me techniques, and even said to me that a lot of these bodybuilders, sometimes they don't even know how to hold the equipment properly. So the thing is, now that I've learned technique, you gain confidence. I started enjoying going to gym, and I was looking forward. And every day he was sending me a new routine. Today you've got to do this, even though I'm not there. You make sure you do this, and you got to send me the records of what you've done. You understand? So that motivates me so much. Unfortunately, the lockdown came here, and my timetable gone out the window. But what I'm trying to say to you is, when you have a schedule, when you have, you might have to pay a bit, but the thing is, you learned that how paramount health is so important. And I noticed the difference in my own self, how confident I became, how I was looking forward to going to gym every morning. I was going 5 days a week. Do you understand? And so you can't. It's just you really need to either somebody that's skilled in it, whatever, in anything. You've got to really enjoy going. If you don't enjoy going, you're gonna quit.
I was just saying, you mentioned a couple of things about exercise there, which are really important. Where you seem like you found someone who motivates you, and it's something you enjoy. And also, it seems like, and you didn't allude to this directly, but I'm making an assumption that you have a target. So you have a purpose for going to job. There's something in your mind where actually, I want to hit a target, and that also helps with exercise as well. So I remember when I was in the phase where I went to the gym. My purpose was really for the sport that I do, and I want to supplement that with strength. So I put some numbers down. I'm like, okay, I want to put down, and I did a lot of studying around trying to understand what, like you said there. I didn't get a personal trainer, but I did a lot of studying around what are the right techniques and things like that, and then how to then translate that into getting to my goals. And there was a determinant and a motivation there to get to a target. I think that's really important as well. And finding someone who understands it. So you mentioned a couple of things there which are important, but the main thing here is you got to enjoy it, you got to be motivated, and you got to find something you enjoy. There was a study that 90% of people who do exercise that they don't enjoy will just drop out after 3 months. But if you do something, and you gave an example of when we were younger, we went out and we just played football. When we were younger, we went out, we played football. We didn't play it because we wanted to get fit. That wasn't our purpose. We went out and we played football because we enjoyed football, and as a consequence, we got fit. And that's almost how you need to look at exercise. It's a lifestyle thing, not a I need to go do this and then get fit. It'll fall away. Find something you enjoy.
That's a good point, Barbara. That's the point I was making, I think, the other day, is that as much as you bring something artificial in, it will not work. As motivated as you can be, I consider myself to be a highly motivated person. It won't work because life just gets busy. Exactly what you said is when we were kids and we played football, it wasn't as if we played football because we wanted to keep fit. It was because we enjoyed the game. Then, I think you went into jiu-jitsu. I went into Muay Thai. When I did that, I didn't do that to keep fit. I did that more as a form of, exerting my energies out on something. So basically, we did all these things because...
Then you got married.
And then I got married. I think I was okay, I think, until my sort of early 40s. And that's when I started to a little bit. But alhamdulillah, now that I've started to do a little bit of manual labor, it's balancing itself back off again. So it's just a case of finding something, like Barbara is saying, which becomes part of your life and consequently keeps you fit. Not
Plus,
trying to keep fit.
another thing that might motivate you is, especially like when you reach our age 40 to 50, then especially you got children growing up, and if you're not fit and healthy, you're gonna think, wait a minute, I might not be around to see these lot grow. Do you understand? So the thing is, you're thinking, you know what, there's more to life than just to sit down and eat and waste away my body. And you need to get up, and you got to enjoy it. Whatever you do, you got to enjoy it. And we used to play football all day, and I worry now because I see the next generation, and I don't see them playing, and I see them sat at home on their phones, whatever. But nobody, plus there's no greenery around that the kids can go. I remember we used to go, making dens. We used to go apple thieving. We used to,
Apple
go
TV.
around. Yeah, we used to climb up,
I don't know.
trees and pick apples and run away, and somebody would come out of the house chasing you, and it would, when you youngsters, you do all these silly things. But what I'm trying to say to you, we were all kind of thing. We would, go
I
up
do
the
not
mountain,
condone
up the hills, and whatever, and walk all day, and then come back late at night. And then I'm sure you guys were in that, but this next generation, you don't see these things in kids unless it's like, oh yes, in a particular, say, Baba's got a group, and he's where the kids are going to go specifically. Unfortunately, kids don't go now like they used to, and I think we become over precautious with our children. Oh no, but you can't go there. There's this fit now, or those people are going to trouble you. No, don't go there, don't go there. You know what? You might as well stay home and just be in front of the mobile phone, or the whatever. And I think that's become an easy solution, and it's become a sad state. And when we talk about this mental health, I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to affect our children quite dramatically. And I've been talking recently with the Bradford Health Care as well, and they want to work, especially they're worried about child obesity, and it's a concern in the next generation. And there's something that we need to address somehow. But I think we all need to motivate ourselves, motivate our children that, Putra, you need to do exercise. Look, now under lockdown, how many of us really spend that hour, going for a walk? And I myself will put my hands up. I'm busy myself here, saying this is khidmat al-deen, whatever. But I need to take out time for myself. Need to take out time for my children. Do you understand? And it's about finding time and really looking after your body, because if your body is not well.
Apologies to cut you off. You mentioned something really important, and I get people asking me, when I do my jiu-jitsu classes, like, how do you get kids interested in doing this? And one of our, honestly and selfishly, one of the big reasons why I teach martial arts is because of my kids. Because kids will look up to their parents.
Baba, is it because you want to hit your children, but you think of the legal implications of it? So you think, oh, okay, I'll set up a jiu-jitsu club so I can give him a good tappa, give him a good slap, and I won't get done by the police. Is that why you set it up?
I think you misunderstood what jiu-jitsu is. There's no face punching. I think it's more grappling and stuff like
arm breaking and choking out, and that's all.
Like
leave no marks is the thing. I don't want to leave a mark. You know what I mean?
Not a real man's sport, then. Yeah.
Baba, let Mufti know. Tell him you want your son to be the next
Habib.
Habib. That's what it is. Yeah. It's all about the Habib. You all want to be the new Habib, innit? And the children want to be the Habib.
Absolutely. You're our date now, Molana. It's now the Habib thing. That's it.
Just to bounce off a few of the ideas shared. With respect to motivation, personally, I feel that once you've got a routine set up and it's a consistent routine, then automatically your body is inclined to do that thing. For example, alhamdulillah, we get up at a specific time to pray, and we've acclimatized, our body has acclimatized itself that, chalo, at 4 o'clock, eyes bang open, whether it's via alarm or via natural. We wake up and automatically look at our phone, it's 4 o'clock. It's time to make wudu and time to pray. We get up and pray. And the more we do these things consistently, the better I think we're going to get the results. And in terms of some of the benefits associated with exercising, any type of exercise, if we have a formal setup routine, whether it's football, whether it's the gym, whether it's going for walks, the body appreciates this in many different ways. One, we can see the physical differences, and obviously within the mind, we know there's chemicals being released that helps our mood. For example, dopamine, serotonin, these things, they get released, they make us feel better. So these feel good food, why does a person, when he naturally goes in, say, Martha alluded to, going for a walk in the park, why does he feel better? One, because of the natural habitat that he's walking through. I think there is an element of that, and then obviously how the body is responding to that mode of exercise. And I think sometimes we just need to make a routine of it. If we say, like, we're in lockdown, but alhamdulillah, our prime minister has given us the direction that we can go outside and exercise multiple times, and we can go outside of our locality to exercise. So as long as it's outdoors, so we can go to local parks, we can go to parks which are further away from our new surroundings, which are unfamiliar to ourselves, and we can use that opportunity to get nature inside us. Nature is a huge benefit. The Prophet, I'm pretty certain the two esteemed scholars would speak at length and describe how the Prophet used to enjoy the nature, and how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, used to enjoy the nature around us, and we don't appreciate what's around ourselves. I mean, it's those of us who are blessed with gardens, we really look after it. I mean, if you look at a lot of the Muslim houses that have maybe small gardens to the front, or small gardens to the back, what do? Our first thing is to concrete it, get rid of nature. That's what we do. And rather than appreciating the blessings that Allah has given us, maybe gardening, putting some flowers, and then it comes down to the point that it's hard work. Anything that we want to achieve, whether it's our spiritual side, it requires hard work and persistence on it. So if we put the effort in, put the hard work into it, whether it's cooking good clean food at home, exercising regularly, praying regularly, enjoying our garden, enjoying our surroundings, then the rewards for that is going to be both in this world, and I'm pretty certain in the next world as well, inshallah.
On that note, Dr. Sab, what we're also seeing is a lot of women folk, they're also concerned about their health. And I know Mufti Sab talked about this a couple of days ago. Nowadays, when you go in the morning, Manningham Park is full of women walking around.
Yeah.
Even in the gyms, there's a lot of women taking up, going to gym. So the thing is, I think a lot of our women are concerned, especially with diabetes, all these issues that are arising, and
I think there's
people
been a
want to be.
generation trend. I think Mosa, what you're alluding to is a generation trend.
But it's lifestyle. With the lifestyle, we talk about the food. It might not be suitable here. The lifestyle sometimes, if somebody's a housewife, so she's always at home, so she doesn't get that exercise. So I think people are, and these are not women that are going out to work. These are also women that are just at home. They are concerned about the health of their. And I think it's a good thing, because the thing is, like I said to you yourself, you want to look beautiful for your wife, and vice versa, she wants to look beautiful for yourself. So there's sometimes keep yourself.
I think that's that point you just made. I think that's a dangerous line to go down if we're trying to make going to the gym and make yourself healthy just so that we look good. Looking good is a person can look whatever he looks, but he can be healthy also. So looking good is a dangerous line. I mean, if we try and adhere to, say, some of the football stars, how they look at and having a very muscular toned body, that is not necessarily what we try and find. Is especially in the youngsters, they will try and go down the path to try and accelerate that look on themselves, and so they used anabolic steroids, which is obviously illegal, and I don't think Islam would permit it as well. So go down that path. We don't need to have that look. We need to just have a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and which encourages good nutrition, good exercise of the body and mind. And so I think those are other things that we can think about.
Molana, you touched on a topic that I just want to bring back to is you talked about child obesity, and I just want to mention something that from the experience that I've had, an anecdotal, but the experience that I've had is that the children will follow the parents. So if your children are not doing something, the likelihood is they're not seeing you do it. So in terms of exercising, one of the big reasons, isn't to beat my children up that I do jiu-jitsu. One of the reasons is they'll see me do it and they'll want to do it. So my elder one is very much into jiu-jitsu now. So he comes and he does that. My younger one's starting to do it because he sees a Buji do it, he sees a Paijan do it. And he's like, oh, okay, they're doing it. And he wants to be involved. So every so often we'll have a bit of a scrap in the front room, and then he'll see my younger one just come and he'll jump in as well. And it's just about if you're sitting at home and you're watching the telly and you're like, but you need to get out more, get off your iPad. Just like there was an example, I think, Mufti Amjad, you gave that you were admonishing your child was watching the Bollywood movies. I mean, it's pretty much the same concept here. If you're not doing it and you've got this big belly, and then you look over at your kid and you say, you need to exercise more, why is he going to listen to you? He's going to look for his role models elsewhere. So you need to start doing it start doing the little bit yourself. And what your children, inshallah, will come along with you and they'll start doing it as well.
I just want to, because it's the month of Ramadan, I want to kind of bring the healthy living and exercise to Ramadan as well. Is why our dastakhans change in Ramadan compared to outside of Ramadan. And in a way, what we're trying to do is fulfill again our desires. It's like saying, I know my ego, you've done really well today, ego. You've not told me to eat burgers and chips and whatever, but don't worry, ego, you'll get everything and more in an hour's time. The whole purpose of Ramadan is that not only do you not eat during those daylight hours, you eat minimum. Obviously, when you break your fast, you're only eating sufficient that will just get you through. But we feed our ego. So you'll find, 2 or 3 different types of savories, 2 or 3 different types of dishes, and the whole job lot. I'm not talking necessarily about, when we were outside of Ramadan and we had guests over, but I'm speaking specifically like in our own house, in our own circumstances. And there's an argument which is used as, it's for the kids. It's for the kids, encourages the kids to fast.
Pakori don't taste as nice outside Ramadan.
Our kids are now 25 years old and we're saying it's for the kids, it's for the kids. So, and the kids aren't even breaking fast with us, and it's for the kids. So the real kid is obviously the ego there, and then we're feeding our egos. And do this experiment. Weigh yourself before Ramadan, weigh yourself after Ramadan, and I think more than average, you will find people weigh at least the same, if not more. So, and the question comes, and less will weigh less, if you know what I mean. So the question then comes is that, why are we weighing more when we've just gone through 30 days of not eating in daylight hours? It begs the question, especially with folk like myself, who've only got from 9:30 till 1 o'clock, which is whatever, 3.5 hours. How can someone, and for others it's maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, how is it possible that a human can consume in 5 hours what he normally consumes in 24 hours? Surely that can't be healthy, Dr. Sam.
It's barakah, Ustaz.
Is it, mashallah?
So I completely agree with the fact that, especially with the example that you alluded to with the Dastakhan, completely agree that why is it are we having so many unhealthy foods in the time where we should try and use this opportunity? Ramadan is a beautiful month because we try and bounce our iman up. We try and elevate ourselves in terms of spirituality. We use this as a springboard to try and elevate the rest of the months that come later on in the year, and then the new Islamic calendar when it starts. And we use this as a springboard to make ourselves better Muslims. But why is it that we focus just on the ibadat of the aspect of it and not say the whole? So you're saying,
so we're missing the spirit of Ramadan, even if we're getting the fiqhi part of Ramadan. Yeah,
I do think so. We are missing the fact that, because if we're putting, for example, a huge proportion of the 24 hours, if we're not putting any food or drinking because Allah SWT says, and then like you suggested, and I do agree with that point, that we're feeding our ego by saying, and literally feeding our ego with the really unhealthy foods that we put inside it. And if you look at the Prophet ﷺ example, I think his Ramadan was a completely different Ramadan to us in terms of his eating and drinking other iftar and suhoor. The suhoor will probably be a very light one, and the iftar will probably be a very light one.
Well, the Prophet ﷺ used to fast perpetually, and his companions tried to imitate him. So the Prophet ﷺ would tell them not to. Yet you can see the state of the companions in that they also wanted to imitate him. They weren't thinking, "Phew, thank God that one's only for the Prophet. Let's quickly go." Whenever we see things, whenever it comes to rights, we always want them, and when it comes to responsibilities, we run away. But the companions were the other way. The companions were flip side. They would always seek responsibilities, but not seek their rights. Unfortunately, so we're missing that point as well.
So after Ramadan, what's our new schedule?
My schedule is the same as in Ramadan. I go at 10 in the morning. I work on scaffolding on the roof, and I do some guttering, and I do some fencing, and I come back at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's 5 hours shift, mashallah. Look at that. My jumper's tearing.
I think you've got a triple XL on today, isn't
it? What's a triple XL?
Jubba in it, Jubba size.
Oh, I see. No. This is look. You only face around my
look,
chest.
it's bursting out.
Those are my pecs.
I think
that's your six pack.
Wait, let me give you a side shot. Look at that. The pecs.
Is that your six pack?
No, I
No,
think
no,
that's a
no.
good example. Mufti, that's a good example you gave. Is that the Prophet he saw his chest and his abdomen were in line together, so his abdomen did not protrude out like most of us, unfortunately, we do.
Well,
We're in our 30s and our stomach protrudes outward.
and in the Hanafi position, we're supposed to tie our hands below our navel, but unfortunately,
So
it ends up being on top of the hump.
out there, he has to try out there.
So our hands are up here, and they say, "Mulisa, are you a Hanafi or something, brother?" Yeah, I am Hanafi. So aren't you supposed to tie your hands below your navel, brother? I haven't seen my nail since the day I was born. Am I supposed to know where my navel is? What does it look like? I need to take a camera or something down there to determine where my navel is.
Selfie.
A navely, wherever it is.
Oh wow!
I think there's a few things that we can take for obviously. There's many things we can take from the Son of a Person, and then if we apply even a proportion of those within our lives, then that can extol. We can extol greatness from that. And one of the first thing is that obviously eat in moderation. I think the Prophet ate in moderation, and he advised to eat in moderation. Exercise regularly. The Prophet was physically active regularly. So we should bring that within our life, not just for us and make it just a completely patriarchal side of things that we do with everything else. It's a family thing. Have a family walk. Have a family time where you go, where one goes half an hour, 40 minutes. They go for a walk in the local area. It doesn't necessarily have to be a park. It can be just enjoying the urban structure of the locality that we're in. Changing our diets. Fast food should not be the option that we fall down to. If we have no other option at home, then we can certainly create another option at home. Men being involved inside the cooking side of things, a lot of people disagree or may shirk away from that, but we have to take an active role in that. If we see that our spouses or our mothers or our sisters, whomsoever is doing the brunt of the cooking, then why not give them a hand? We can teach our kids. Certainly, I learned how to cook outside of home, and I used, and Molana Sajid, I mentioned YouTube. YouTube taught me how to cook, and various other people whom I was living with at the time in university. We cooked together and we learned styles of it. And occasionally I would ring my mother and say, "Look, I'm cooking this. What do I do next?" And mom says, "Okay, chuck this in and do this, and this is the proportions that you're looking for. You're adding." And so that's how I would, or even experiment. The main thing we do is we don't maybe make a day in the week where we experiment with a totally different cuisine, a different type of style of food, completely strange from us. We haven't had to try it before. Most of you mentioned pastas. We can try a pasta a week. So today it could be, an Italian style of pasta. Next week could be Yorkshire pudding. I mean, how many of us have had the halal version of a Yorkshire pudding or shepherd's pie even? We don't know. This is English food that we don't know about, that our taste buds don't know about. Maybe if it's not acquired to our taste buds, let's make it our taste buds. Add the spice that we enjoy. You can add that. I'm sure you can add that to a shepherd's pie. But
I just wanted to come in and just touch upon on the Prophet Sallallahu life. You mentioned there about the Prophet Sallallahu life. Let's not forget, we've got Masjid Umar building there. Rasulullah Sallallahu was 53 years old when he was building a masjid. 53, okay? Picking up stones, building a masjid. He was 60 years old at the time of Fatih Makkah, meaning he was an active mujahid up till the age of 60, active. Badr came after Hijrah, so he was in his 50s. Uhud came in his mid-50s. Khandaq was in his late 50s. We are talking about a very active man. And for those of us who think swinging a sword is like taking a piece of grass and swinging, it's not. Swords were exceptionally heavy. And this is in full armor, helmet. The Prophet of Allah had a helmet which ran across here into his, along his lihya, along his chin bone. What do you call it? A jawbone. Yeah, it ran along his jawbone. He would have a breastplate which would shine in the sun. He mentions it was a very awe-inspiring sight when the Prophet of Allah was coming into Mecca as a conqueror with his head, his beard down on his chin. Yeah, he's coming in as a conqueror. Now he was in full body armor, and getting from Medina to Mecca, we normally sit in our nice air-conditioned cruisers, those American cars. The Prophet,
they've got a train now. They've got train.
The Prophet was on a camel. So this is the Babar said about this as well, that it was being fit was as a consequence. They lived active lifestyles. We kind of retire very early. We kind of feel as soon as we hit.
I think is like you said, it's lifestyle. Our choices that we make in our lifestyle and how we, like you see back home, sort of people are similar. Because one thing the climate is such that when they go out to work, they swear everything. They eat the right type of food. We keep on mentioning this. We roti salam bo. We sit down and
but Molana, they carried on working for some reason.
yeah, they carried on working.
For some reason, in our culture, as soon as we hit sort of 30, 40, we suddenly slow down. We feel that we're not supposed to be doing active work anymore. We start getting our children to do everything. But we stop doing things, and you don't see that in the prophetic time. The Sahaba would obviously want to do khidmah. The Prophet would not request khidmah. They would want to do it. Yet the Prophet we know, used to milk his own animals, sew his own clothes, fix his own shoes, go into the aswaq, into the bazaars, do the shopping. We, for some reason, retire before we retire. We've got this kind of mindset. And I think we've got to break that mindset. And then when we do that, inshallah, then, I'm sure we will live active lives and good lives as well. And they'll be productive rather than sort of resting on our laurels.
MashaAllah. I think, guys, we're at the hour mark, so I think we'll start wrapping up there, inshallah. So just Dr. Saab just did a really good summary, so I'll just briefly go over. So some of the main points we talked about is that food. As a community, we consume way too much meat, and it's not proportional to what our lifestyle should be. We should start looking to why, and if we feel why there's not enough barakah in our food. And there was a prophetic tradition which was mentioned: a third air, a third food, and a third water. So don't just go into the table and just start eating. There's limits and moderation. And I think throughout the podcast today, moderation has been kind of the key, right? So when you're consuming moderation, and make sure that there's a balance there. So the amount you consume, there needs to be some exertion in there. You need to go out and you need to do some work. Try finding something you enjoy, and then make that a habit. Right? Make it into, so just like we make our namaz a habit and we make our other deen activities habits, make it a habit and do it at a time. And one thing that I often, when I was going to the gym and I wasn't doing that, so link it with something. So like if you do your fajr, you can link that to your gym. Right? Okay, so I'm going to read my fajr namaz and then I'll go to the gym. Or I'm going to do X activity and then I'll link it to the gym. Then you find a time and a place where you can wait to schedule stuff. Try finding motivation. And if you need a personal trainer and you have lots of money like Molana Sajid, then obviously get a personal trainer. But
you see, he nodded his head when he said it, when you have a lot of money anyway. Yeah,
he knows. And he knows we know. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Allah mazid fazid.
Ameen.
I try getting motivated to do it, so enjoy it. So just wrapping up. So if we start with Molana Saab, is there any points that you want to make just as a wrap up?
No, mashallah, I think the panel mentioned a lot of good points, and I think all these things, moderation is a key point. Like that, healthy living is important, and just like we worried about physical health, we should worry about our spiritual health. And I think spiritual health, sometimes if you're physically and spiritually well, mentally you'll stay well as well. So just like we got exercise and everything, namaz itself is an exercise, and it's the best form of exercise. We go up and down, every limb of our body is moving. So we should pray our namaz, fight our namaz, go to the masjid, walk to the masjid. So these are habits that we should instill. And inshallah,
are you going against the government guidelines there, Molana?
Not yet. I'm still, once the lockdown gets lifted, then inshallah, everybody should make the intention of walking to the masjid and occupying the mosque.
I was about to ring the police then, but yeah.
You're gonna ring the police, okay? Don't worry, they're all with me anyway, so they're all friends of mine. So. No, inshallah. So Allah Ta'ala gives all the ability, the tawfiq, and we've got to, especially next generation, obesity is a big issue. There's a lot of talk about these things, and these things we've got to worry about. And
it's not. It's an issue now. It's not an issue for next. It's an issue now.
It's an issue for now. It's an issue for future. Like we were talking yesterday about dementia. It will affect our lives. It will affect the way that we live. It will affect our bodies. Diabetes is an issue. Lots of there's illnesses out there. So we don't take care of ourselves. Then we face the consequences, and may Allah save us from those consequences.
Dr. Saab, do you want to just mention some points in closing?
I think most of the points have, if not all of them, have been discussed at length or to a certain degree already by the man. Alhamdulillah. Everything that we've been speaking about for the last since the start of these podcasts are things we can put into place from now. It's not something that we can think about for our future generation. It's for us we're living in within our communities. Everything from whatever topics we've been speaking about, whether it's to do with the societal effects on our children or ourselves, healthy living and exercise, whether it's on ourselves or our children, they affect each, and dementia was a huge blocker. We can put all of these things in place. Going back to dementia that Martha just briefly mentioned, we can put these things in place, things to help our elders anyway, whether they have dementia or not. For example, putting a handrail in the bathroom, in the bathtub, that helps. It won't just help our elder folk; it'll help ourselves. One can slip if in the bathtub if he's having a bath and trying to get up, and he can slip. So having a handrail will reduce that chance. Won't eliminate it altogether per se, but some people are having steps up to their homes. They don't have handrails to help those people going up and down the steps. Maybe we can put these things in right now. So everything that we would like to do, we should not wait till tomorrow when the actual problem arises and then try to fix the problem. Let's try and be proactive and put things in place from now. And there's no best time than today. Then right now, at this moment in time, we can start putting things in place. Maybe our dastakhan for iftar could be tailored for better iftar, for more healthy iftar. Let's try and put in the action. And I know it will be difficult, but the first few days are always difficult. Let's get rid of all the fried food. Let's put in some fruit, some water, and then let's look at tailoring some healthy options for a main meal if we so want to go down that path. Let's get rid of fried food. I mean, let's see how many of us put that into place to begin with.
MashaAllah. Mufti Sahab.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that the Sharia that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed for us, of which the Sunnah is a significant portion, is for our benefit. It's our benefit. We don't act upon it, we are the only losers. So we will have a bad life in this world. Our life will be shortened, and our quality of life will be shortened. That's the first thing if we don't follow the Sharia, which Allah has given to us as a gift. We see it as a burden, but it's a gift. And the Sunnah is a gift, but we see it as a burden, unfortunately. So we will suffer the pains and the aches and the rest of it. Similarly, then we're going to be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a working, perfect body, which mankind cannot create even a part of to this day, whether it be an eye or a heart or a kidney or a lung. He gives us all that work in fine working condition, in perfection. Literally, when you pick that baby and you see the perfection in that baby, the similarities and the mirror line, literally, if you cut the baby in half, not condoning that, if you cut the baby in half, you will see a mirror image on the other side. It's perfection, perfect eyes, hands, wherever. We then unfortunately abuse that body when we're supposed to use that body. It's a mild difference between use and abuse, and we will then suffer its consequences on the great day. So yes, we can be nice and pretty about it, but I'm a Yorkshireman and I say as it is. I say very frankly, Sharia is for your benefit. Throw it to one side, ignore it, throw it over your back, you will suffer.
MashaAllah.
You're my rival then. I'm from Lancashire, the Red Rose County.
No.
So
before we have a War of the Roses, I think we need a separate podcast for that.
Just for the war. So just some housekeeping before we end. Going across the bottom of your screen, there's an additional method today that we didn't have yesterday. So we have the bank details scrolling across. So if you want to log on to your bank account and transfer the money directly, use that sort code and account number across the bottom now. If you want to use the link, there's a link there with GoFundMe. I'm going to put that into the comments as well. So just click on that and then you'll go to the GoFundMe page and you can use that. Or you can contact Brothers of God and he will arrange to meet you, obviously with social distancing and all the precautions in place to try getting that money from you so you can donate it that way. The masjid is still in need of your money, so please donate generously. And inshallah, on that note, we will finish. And
Baba, one more point.
Jim mentioned that the money will go towards a gym as well.
Oh, I'm not. Is it? Will
project towards the gym. Have a gym.
Baba, a couple of points, Baba. Just mashallah, we raised approximately £7,000 yesterday from our show Laylatul Qadr. May Allah Ta'ala reward everybody, and please carry on donating for the last few days of Ramadan. And like you said, mashallah, through all these sources. Dr. Saab just alluded to something. Yes, inshallah, in our community, in the building, we'll have some community rooms, and so inshallah, we'll come up with the various different kinds of exercises and whatever else can be done. Inshallah, we'll provide facilities. Another point is tomorrow, inshallah.
Will there be a takeaway next to the gym?
Definitely, the doner kebab £5.
That's fair. So I mean, because you can eat the fried food first and then work it off in the gym straight after.
And then
we're planning to change the dynamic. You buy the fried food and then go and work out. So as you're on the treadmill, you have your doner kebab.
Yeah.
That's another way of looking at it. Okay, that's different. That's novel.
And I know tomorrow, inshallah, on our podcast, we'll have Brother Naz. He's quite popular in Girlington and people are familiar with him. He's got an interesting story to tell you about his life through drugs and going into prison, being released from prison. And mashallah, he set up a group called Consequences. So tomorrow our title will be The Consequences of Crime. So he'll talk about prison life and the reality of prison life and the realities of drugs and crime, and it's not worth it. And so please tune in tomorrow 3:30. Inshallah, we'll have with the Naz joining us, guys. Inshallah. Sorry, Babar, I always
No, that's fine. And that was all. I was going to close it there. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.